Okay, so we have we've looked at how you would just plot on where the darts would be, or where you could move darts to, simply by adding up what the darts are, putting a line from the hip line. You can just reinterpret the amount of fabric that's taken out with the dart in that way. But you can also manipulate the darts by slashing and spreading, so or slashing and closing, whichever. So that's what we're going to do now. So when we were looking at bodices, there were lots of rules, weren't there? Rules about what you can move and where you can move it to, how far to how near the bust point, etc. That isn't necessarily a problem when you're dealing with these darts. So it doesn't change the shape of the skirt, doesn't change the fit of the skirt, but it is a design detail. So I'm going to say I'm going to have a skirt that's got a dart configuration that looks like that. Could be really interesting in a stripe. Okay, so here's what we do. I hope you like it. It's nice and easy. We are going to just draw on the position we want the new darts to be in. So I'm going to start them from the halfway point between where these darts exist now. I've marked that on. And I'm going to draw a line to the ends of the existing darts, like so. Now again, much like when we're moving bodice darts, if you're going to open up a new dart in this way, you have to close up the old dart. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is we're going to cut down through the new dart position so that we're ready for the these to be able to open up. You are manipulating just from the end of the dart. So like I say, it's quite different. There's not so many rules when you're dealing with these skirt darts. So I'm cutting down one side of the existing dart, and I'm going to pull that over and close it. And you can see already that a new position for this dart has opened up. So going in with the second one. Okay, cutting down to the end of the dart, and I'm closing that up, and as I close it, so the new dart opens. So we've got their positions in place. We now need to get a nice top line going. I'm just going to stick paper in behind for this one. And I'm just going to sellotape it. We then have to close up these darts to find out what our top line is going to be. So I'm going to fold this dart as it would be sewn. So if you fold down one side, put your finger in at the end, at the point, to make that lay flat. There we go, you can just close it over. Oops. Oh, that's that one closed. Sorry, that made me growl, didn't it? Okay, next one. I'm going to fold it along its new line. I'm going to close it, making sure that that's there. I'm going to pop a pin in it. And no wonder that first one made me growl. It's not stayed in position at all. Okay. Remember, it's just a piece of paper. You're in charge. It's kind of me talking to myself, but you can be saying the same thing. Okay. So, like we did in the last manipulation, we're going to find that line that runs smoothly from those darts out through to the side seam. It's not actually got much that needs to come off. Tiny bit. And we're now going to go through this with our tracing oil. I'm going to take those badly behaved pins out and see what that top line should be. Not very exciting really, but that's the top line that would need to happen. So when you're making this pattern, obviously you'll be adding on a centimetre all around. Let me do that. Continuing down the front here. This will be on a fold. That centre front will be on a fold. I'm just doing this because I want to show that the ends of the darts, exactly as the ends of the darts on your bodices that you've made, will need to be marked with a notch. In this particular instance, it's a bit odd because you've got one dart in the middle that applies to both of the darts. But that should be clear. Okay, so that's one example of how you can manipulate a dart or move a dart just by slashing and spreading. I'm going to show you two more because they just open up other possibilities. One of these is that the darts don't have to run out through the waist. I'm going to close these darts up and open them into the side seam. So what we'll end up with here is a skirt that has the same shaping, but the darts will run like this. Oops, well, ish. So you can have darts that run from your side seam to give you waist shaping. Strange, perhaps. So drawing on the new dart position, for this dart. If you only wanted one, then you could move these darts into one before you start this manipulation here. Right, so as per usual, we're going in through the new dart position first. Okay, there we go. We are then going to close these darts up. I won't do it by folding, I'll do it by cutting. Cutting just seems a little bit more accurate. Although obviously, as I keep saying, I'm working in big fat pens so you can see what I'm doing, so none of mine are going to be particularly accurate. So as I close that dart up, you can see this crazy dart opening, which relates to this on the drawing. As with all the blocks, if you were to make up the block exactly as it is, what you would get is a quite well-fitting, very, very boring skirt. So even if you wanted to make a straight skirt, I would be expecting you all to do something a little bit with it. I always think that just made up as it is, it's like a work skirt from BHS or something. So no, we don't want any of that, not on a fashion course. So let me get the paper in behind these new darts. I've got enough, just. In an ideal world, you'll be tracing these off rather than just sellotaping them. Your patterns I'll expect to be cleaned up significantly. Okay, so we're doing the same as we did when they were coming from the top line, which is we're going to fold the dart as if it was sewn closed. We are going to run our tracing wheel down the side seam so that we know what the end of that dart should look like. Oh, and it's a nice one. I like a dart end that looks like it means business. That one does. And then the same with this one. I've actually folded one up and one down, which might be strange behaviour, but let's see what difference it makes on the... None. Okay, so those are what our dart ends look like to create a skirt like this. It's relatively easy, it's a technique that you've used before, so I don't anticipate that you would find this difficult. When you would trace this pattern off, this would be traced on a fold of paper so that we ended up with a whole skirt front. Everything that we're doing with these skirt front examples can of course be done with the skirt back. If we look at the first one we did there momentarily, you could work these not as darts but as tucks. That could be quite a pretty finish. So darts on skirt waists can sometimes be worked as a tuck, which can be pretty. Is that all I want to say about those? We're assuming, or I've assumed with everything that I've done so far, that we don't have a seam down the centre front, so the pattern will be cut on a fold of paper, and I'm kind of assuming that there is a seam down the centre back that would have a zip. So the seam allowances would be 1 centimetre around everything. Centre back I would put 1.5 to 2 centimetres. If you're working half scale, you need to half those measurements. Okay, I'm going to be back in a minute with an asymmetric one.